Hello, citizens, corporate business owners for and against outsourcing. Welcome to Town Hall, welcome to our panel discussion. My name is Morgan Becker, and I've been the moderator for this panel for the last 6 years. The reason we're here is to discuss the business, economic, and moral aspects of outsourcing, which has only recently become an important American issue at the turn of the 21st century. Now I'd like to introduce our panelists. First, we have Mark Studer. He's the CEO of Dell Computers, and he will be discussing pricing, quality, and the relationship between companies and their consumers while using outsourcing. Next, we have Nico Hayes. He is a member of the International Association of Outsourcing Professionals, or the IOP, and he'll be discussing economics and the business impact that comes from outsourcing. Third, we have Georgia Houston. She is a member of she is on the board of the American Engineering Association, and she will be discussing safety, jobs, and the ethics that surround outsourcing. Last but not least, we have Iman Ortiz, and she is an outsourcing expert at the American Society for Quality, and she'll be discussing if companies will be saving money or if they can retain control over the product. And before we get started, I would like to remind each panelist that they'll be asked 4 questions in which they would have 1 minute to respond. And I would also like to ask the audience to hold all their questions until the Q&A session at the end of our discussion. Now let's get started. First, Mark, what is your position on outsourcing and why?
Thank you, Morgan. My name is Mark Studer. I'm the CEO of Dell Computers. And for my position as CEO, I've had a lot of experience with outsourcing throughout the years. And I've seen many benefits in many different areas of the organization. For that reason, I'm for outsourcing. I support it. And I believe that when it's done properly, the pricing can be improved for both the company and the consumers. The quality can actually be improved as well, despite the fact that many people believe it's degraded solely from outsourcing. And finally, I think the relationships between the company and the consumers can be improved, as well as from the company with the world around them, with global connections.
Okay, Nico, what is your position on outsourcing and why did you choose this position?
Thank you. Hello, my name is Nico Hayes, and I am pro-outsourcing. My research as a member of the International Association of Outsourcing Professionals has made it an easy task for me to support outsourcing, which I have learned that it harbors many benefits that outshines its fewer disadvantages. Furthermore, the main reason of my advocacy for outsourcing is its ability to promote economic growth and actually provide jobs. Also important is outsourcing is a growing trend, and it's a natural development that we will want to adapt to, considering its long-term benefits.
Nico, and Georgia, what is your position on outsourcing and why?
I'm Georgia Houston, and I am a board member of the American Engineering Association. I do not think that outsourcing is the best way to go when starting a business or keeping a business, because I feel that the owners of those companies violate and ignore a lot of ethics, and it seems to promote inequality for me. The classes separate, and the rich get richer and the poor stay poor. I think that it goes against a lot of personal rights and personal safety for the overseas workers, and that it's very dangerous. I don't see it as a positive for either companies or either countries of the company working. I don't think it's good for the United States because of unemployment rates and the safety issues for the other countries.
Thank you, Georgia. And Iman, what is your position on outsourcing and why did you choose this position?
As the moderator said, my name is Iman Ortiz, and I'm an outsourcing expert at the American Society for Quality. Now, I am against outsourcing for several reasons. First, the quality of the product is compromised. According to Lydia Guadalupe, a company majors outsource major components are likely to fail. Also, there's dissatisfaction from the customer. Customers are not happy with the quality these outsourcing companies are providing. And lastly, there's communication problems between the company and the outsourcing company. There might be errors that cannot be detected on time, and it might be too late by the time they notice.
Okay. Now back to Mark. How does outsourcing affect pricing?
Well, when dealing with outsourcing, pricing can be affected in a few different ways. Mainly, it saves money for both the company and its consumers. So everybody benefits really. This is profit maximization, which is basically allowing the company to offer better prices for the consumer, which allows them to buy more of the product, therefore improving the economy in general. And pricing and outsourcing also relate to entrepreneurship in the United States. Entrepreneurs these days really need to be efficient. They need to save all the time they can in order to maximize their profits and make money. And so they do this through hiring skilled professionals when outsourcing. These professionals have experience making the products and they can improve the quality, as I'll talk about later. Some of the most common areas that entrepreneurs outsource, according to internationalstaff.net, are web design, copywriting, and telemarketing. And they outsource those in order to be more efficient and make the most profit they can.
Thank you, Mark. And Nico, how does outsourcing impact U.S. companies?
Outsourcing has a significant effect on U.S. companies. One of its main benefits is it creates a greater focus on a company's core business functions, such as sales and product development. Some non-core functions include call centers and IT. While important, they distract from the main activities of the companies and only spread the work very thin. Outsourcing is a great solution for this problem, as it helps with the workforce management and gives time for organizations to strengthen their core business functions. And these functions are defining and unique strategies that companies do to create that competitive advantage they have over other competitors, thus ultimately leading to its growth and success.
Thank you, Nico. Georgia, do you think the pros of outsourcing outweigh the cons? And if so, why?
I don't think that the pros of outsourcing outweigh the cons because companies are outsourcing in order to save money. So they are making the employees work longer hours and get paid low salaries. They're taking advantage of the fact that other countries don't have the same protection of labor laws that the United States necessarily has. They might not have them at all or have not as strict rules. So we are going against the unprotected citizens of the other countries and taking advantage of them essentially. And it also hurts the American economy because since they're outsourcing, the taxes are not being paid to the US because they're going through other countries. So in short, they're cheating the American economy out of some money that they should be paying us. So I do not think that the pros outweigh the cons.
Okay. Iman, what are some companies that have had problems with outsourcing?
Some of the major companies that had problems with outsourcing would include Toyota, Boeing, and Masterlock. Now, Toyota last year had a recall of 8.5 million cars due to accelerating problems. Now, they also had a recall of 412,000 cars for steering problems. Now, these are all problems that were not detected on time. Also, Boeing experienced the bad manufacturing of wings and engines. Boeing had to pay a large amount of money to redesign and pay for the expensive delays of these products. Masterlock had 752,000 gun locks recalled. And according to Journal Sentiment, all these recalls happen because problems are not detected on time. And it's not easy for these two companies to communicate easily.
Thank you. Back to Mark. Does outsourcing affect the relationship between companies and consumers?
Yes, I think it does. Outsourcing does affect the relationship between companies and consumers in a positive way. Basically, you can break it down when talking about relationships and outsourcing to two different ways, according to streetdirectory.com. There's task outsourcing and there's process outsourcing. Task outsourcing is having qualified employees all around the world still remaining part of your company. They're still part of the organization. And so these companies are expanding around the globe, but their employees around the globe are still part of the organization. They have a say. And this really increases the accessibility to the company for consumers because they don't have to worry about office hours or time zone differences. There's always going to be someone available to them from the company. And process outsourcing is contracting operations of your company to a third-party service provider. So this small provider is just helping you with one part of the organization. And
Okay, Mark, I'm going to stop you right there and give the floor to Nico. How is the U.S. economy affected as a result of outsourcing?
Contrary to popular belief, the U.S. economy actually benefits well from outsourcing. While many believe that it is a big contributor to large losses of jobs in America, many don't consider the fact that many foreign countries do outsource to the U.S. According to Forbes article discussing outsourcing misconceptions, 5.3 million Americans work for U.S. subsidiaries of foreign companies. As I've discussed earlier, outsourcing only promotes success in businesses, and this too will lead to more jobs, because stagnant and failing organizations will not provide any worthwhile jobs anyone would want. While it is true that outsourcing does take away some work from the U.S., it is a large and important part to the cause and source of American jobs in the U.S.
Georgia, earlier you mentioned some safety concerns. Why does physical safety seem to be more hazardous when outsourcing rather than staying within the company?
Physical safety seems more hazardous when outsourcing because the working conditions are so poor in some of the factories and other working facilities. The companies are outsourcing in order to save money, so they're not going to spend the extra money by fixing the conditions when they don't have to. They don't have to improve the conditions because of the lack of labor laws and rights for the citizens, so they're not going to spend the extra money on doing that. Since the demand regulations are so low in other countries compared to the United States, they are taking advantage of that. Also, since they're going through other companies to outsource, the liability shifts, and so the original company is no longer necessarily responsible for the workers and employees, so they don't have the same threat of lawsuits as they would in the United States, so they're not going to go out of their way to protect these people who, in a sense, can't really protect themselves. And the care decreases dramatically since they're not liable or responsible for the workers anymore.
Thank you. And Iman, so companies retain control of their products?
It's very hard for a company to retain control of their product when they're outsourcing to another company. Now, they don't have direct collaboration with this company. They're just expecting the product to become finished. Now, if they notice a problem, it's already too late. The product has been produced and there's mistakes, and that's when recalls happen. Now, according to Bigelow, a key to successful production, it is to retain control of your specialized components. When your specialized components go overseas, you can't make them the same way you do because those people are not trained to do it the same way you're used to having your product done.
Coming back to Mark, is quality sacrificed with outsourcing?
the only time quality can be sacrificed dealing with outsourcing is when companies do it carelessly or haphazardly. This usually occurs with companies that are only focused on maximizing their profits. They're making the most money that they can. And the quality I've seen that it can be improved when it's done correctly. Because you have experienced professionals building your items instead of workers that don't really have particular knowledge of what they're making. And for that reason, it's really important to screen your candidates that you're outsourcing to, because they're part of your organization and you have to treat them as if they're an employee. And as I said earlier and just described, outsourcing can lead to better quality and better prices. And I think it's acceptable when done correctly. And outsourcing, it has proven that it can advance the company, help consumers, and improve the economy. And for those reasons, I support outsourcing.
And Nico, how does outsourcing affect the global economy?
Well, in today's globalized economy, competition between companies has been rampant worldwide. According to the same article mentioned earlier, about 95% of the world's consumers and workers live outside the US. It's an opportunity many American companies will have to take advantage of. Outsourcing to different countries not only puts the US in a good competitive stance, but it also gives other countries a chance to develop their economy, which only bodes well for US trade due to new market developments. This also encourages other countries to continue their outsourcing or even start their outsourcing back to the US for similar reasons. The key factor is viewing outsourcing's long-term effects in promoting economic growth, providing jobs, and learning of its place in the future of business. And these are the reasons why I support outsourcing.
Thank you, Nico. Georgia, why do you not see these new jobs as positive for the other countries?
I don't see these new jobs as positives for the other countries because for some of these workers, they're the only jobs that are available for them, so they don't really have a choice. Maybe they didn't have the proper education, they don't have a high school diploma, or they just don't have the resources that we were given growing up in the United States. So they're forced to put up with these conditions, maybe to provide for their families. So I don't see it as a positive that some people are forced to work 50 cents an hour. I don't see it as a positive that little kids are forced to climb into broken machines in order to fix them. And I don't see it as a positive where the workers' freedom is taken away as they have to live in the dormitories on the factory premises so that all they do pretty much is work all day. I don't see any of those as positive things, and that's why I am against outsourcing.
Thanks, Georgia. And Iman, do companies end up saving money when using outsourcing?
In the short run, yes, they might be saving money in production cost, but in the long run, according to American Society for Quality, lower production costs are not enough to make up for the low quality, poor service, poor communication, and slow delivery. 40% and less of payroll expenses don't account for the 60% of less production being done in these outsourcing companies. A lot of companies don't take this into consideration when considering outsourcing. They believe they're going to still have the same production with lower costs. This is not the case. They're getting less production done, and it's because there is less people qualified for this position. That is why I am against outsourcing.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to thank Mark Studer for coming out and talking to us about his opinion for outsourcing, focusing on price, quality, and the relationship between the company and its consumers when using outsourcing. Also, I'd like to thank Nico Hayes for coming out and expressing his opinion for outsourcing, focusing on the economics and business impact that comes from outsourcing. Thirdly, I would like to thank Georgia Houston for coming out and expressing her opinion against outsourcing, focusing on safety, jobs, and the ethics surrounding outsourcing. And Iman Ortiz, thank you for coming out and telling us your opinion against outsourcing, focusing on if companies are saving money or if they can retain control over their products. Lastly, I thank the audience for coming out, and that concludes our panel, and I would like to open the floor to any questions. Yes.
I have a question for Nico. What is the overall performance of the outsourced non-core business functions?
Okay, Nico, what is the overall performance of the outsourced non-core business functions?
Typically, these outsourced non-core business functions are just as successful as the core functions that we keep here. Not just in part of the increased focus on these jobs, but these jobs are outsourced to highly trained professionals. As an example, outsourcing call centers to India and the Philippines, those countries have many students who are willing to perform and excel at these jobs, and they're highly educated and especially well-versed in the English language.
Any other questions? Yes, you.
This is for Mark. Despite the controversy, do many businesses outsource to some degree?
Okay, Mark, the question was, despite the controversy, do many businesses outsource to some degree?
Yes, definitely. Most businesses do outsource to some degree, although it varies from business to business. Some will outsource more, some outsource less. According to the Bureau of National Affairs and the Secretary for Human Resource Management, 2/3 of all human resources departments outsource at least one activity. And so that's a lot of outsourcing going on in a lot of businesses. And they do this to maximize their profits, as I said earlier, because outsourcing can cut costs from 10 to 30% depending on the industry. And so that's why most companies do outsource to some degree.
Thank you. Any more? Yes, in the corner.
This question is for Iman. What is another alternative for cost-friendly production?
Another alternative for cost-friendly production would would include vertical integration. Now, according to Bigelow and Argus, companies that make vertical integration decisions consistent with the logic of transaction cost economics survive longer than those companies that don't. Further, if you keep your production in the country, in your own company, without having this outsourcing company, you are aware of what changes goes in the economy, and you make the changes themselves, and you don't have to rely on someone else to save money for you.
One more? Yes.
This one's for Georgia. If employees are choosing to work for these companies, why is it our responsibility to step in and change the methods?
Okay, Georgia, the question was, if these employees are choosing to work for the companies, why is it our responsibility to step in and change methods?
As the United States, I feel that it's our responsibility to step in when there is inequality anywhere. And the fact of the matter is that some of these people don't have the choice to work for these companies, so it's the only job they can get. So we need to make sure that they are being treated equally and with the same rights and safety issues that we are privileged with in the United States.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our Q&A.